Welcome to Pet Pals. I'm Dee Dee, and this is Randy, and our first guest today is Kitty. We are here at Frederick County Animal Control and Pet Adoption Center on Rosemont Avenue. And if you have tuned into the show before, then you may have seen Kitty, who is now called Harry. He was adopted for about 2 weeks, and then the family brought him back. Not every adoption works out. Some cats are lap cats, some cats are more independent, and we share that with you when you're deciding on getting a cat. But we do encourage people to come here for their first pet. And sometimes, no matter what conversations you have prior to the adoption, when people get home and have the reality of another mouth to feed and a responsibility, they decide it's not for them. We try to limit the amount of times that happens, and we are happy to report that nationwide, 10% of pets that leave shelters are returned to the shelter, and we are able to keep the percentage in Frederick County much lower. Part of that, I have to give credit to our adoption counselors, but part of it is the people of Frederick. People in Frederick have grown up with animals. They know a lot about animals. It's not that common for someone to come to the shelter for their first pet ever, having never had childhood pets. But they do, and we try to help everyone to become responsible pet owners. And Kitty is an example of trying to help someone make the break into, a dog person who wants to try a cat. And we certainly don't check the animals out like books in the library, where you can bring them back when you're done, but we do encourage people to talk to us and take a chance and see if they're ready. And one of the things you can see clearly about Kitty, who they called Harry for 2 weeks, is that number one, he's beautiful, but number two, he does not hold still. He is snuggly and likes people, and he likes to do stuff, but he is not a lap cat. So if what you are picturing is sitting in front of the fireplace watching movies with your kitty on your lap, he's not the one. And we're going to show you some in a few minutes that will be. So if you want an active, go-getter, gorgeous cat to be your companion, please come in and meet Harry Kitty. And we're going to give him a break before he leaps off of Randy's lap and takes his own break. Our next guest is Widget, and Widget is a brown tabby domestic shorthair. She is a spayed female, and she is 2 years old. Oh, sorry, Widget's a boy. See, I've insulted Widget twice today already. So Widget is a neutered male, very petite face, so I made that mistake without even consulting him. He's 2 years old, and the reason that his owner gave him up was that they didn't have the financial resources for an extra mouth to feed. So on the one hand, you could say, well, gosh, how expensive could it be to have a cat? And it's probably less than a few $100s a year if your cat is healthy. But here's the thing we can never prepare for, and that is that if your cat gets sick, and we have no reports that Widget was sick and incurred any large vet bills, just the general cost was prohibitive to them. But if your cat gets sick, or any pet, then you're going to need to go to the vet. Well, usually they do this on a Sunday night, so you're going to have to go to a vet you don't know on an emergency basis, and there are fees involved with that. So you may want to get pet insurance. And what you should know is that every cat or dog that's adopted from the animal shelter comes with 30 free days of pet insurance. It is a great thing. They don't ask you for your credit card number, so they can't bill you. And it just gives you that little peace of mind for the first 30 days that if something happens that you didn't know about or plan for, you would be at least partially covered, if not all, for the vet bill. However, you would have to decide after that 30 days if you want to buy your own pet insurance from the same company or a different company, or if you're a saver and you have in reserves what you would need to take care of your pet in an emergency. And Widget, as you can see, is a lap cat. So if you are looking for sitting by the fire and watching movies with your kitty, then Widget's going to be more your speed. If you want a cat that comes out at parties and jumps around and entertains people, then go back to Kitty Harry, and we will show you some more adoptable cats and talk about their differences. This is Tinkerbell, and you met Tinkerbell's sister at the end of the cat segment last episode. Her name was Shelby, and they look similar. They're both dilute calico short hairs. Tinkerbell is less of a lap cat than Shelby, but the nice thing about these two girls is because they're sisters and we have them housed together at the shelter, if you are looking to adopt two cats but want to make sure they get along, then these girls will be your answer to that. 1 in 300 cats that has this coat pattern is a male. So they're almost always girls. Calico is the same way. Tortoiseshell calico, dilute calico, and dilute tortoiseshell, or if you care about cat genetics, are 1 in 300 boys. So they're almost always girls. These two sisters have been together their whole life, which is short. They've only been alive for 2 years. And their family dropped them off here because they moved. And a lot of times people will say, I cannot imagine leaving some family members behind when I move. However, the truth is we do it all the time. Kids move to college, families break up, people move out of state away from other family members that live in a different household. So nothing happens to cats that doesn't also happen to people. The difference is because they're dependent on us, they don't have as easy of a time finding a new home. And the second thing is, a lot of times when people move, it's not their choice. It's a financial hardship, and they have to either move in with family members or take an apartment that doesn't allow pets, and they're a little bit powerless in making arrangements that would allow them to keep their pets. Many of the animals we get here at Frederick County Animal Control are unapproachable, and some of the dogs, a small number, are actually dangerous to handle. So these are animals that would not be able to stay in their home under any circumstance. So those are not the same as these guys who are good pets. They're going to make good pets again. They just need the right family. And maybe in Tinkerbell's case, it's you. This is Darrell, and Darrell is obviously very young, and his brother is also here. And we have 60 foster homes that help us every year raise up the kittens that we get, which from April to October number more than 1,000. And I know I say that a lot, but it can be a shocking number for people who don't realize the volume of animals that we handle here at the animal shelter. And in August, we had a 30% increase in rescue groups being able to take kittens from us. And that is typical throughout the year, that during the height of our kitten season, rescues are a big help in getting the kittens out of here alive, because if we fill up the shelter with tiny kittens, then we don't have room for the older cats. So there are plenty of rescue groups that will help us. Now, we do have plenty of kittens. The 60 foster homes are all full. They all have more than one. Some of them have more than one litter full. So they trickle back into the shelter throughout the summer and fall. And Darrell and his brother and Bippity Boppity and Boo are here awaiting homes. And as you can see, kittens are a lot of fun. Now, obviously, they get adopted pretty quickly. Darrell and his brother do not have any applications at this time. So if you are watching this on about Wednesday, you need to hurry in and make your interest known, and also let us know if you're interested in a kitten in particular, and we will try to help you out. We still have plenty more coming into the shelter, which they will be probably until throughout November. A lot of times people wait to get a kitten at Christmas time for their family because they know they're going to be on vacation, and they know that someone's going to be home to get the kitten ready for the normal schedule. There are a couple things wrong with that. Number one is we won't have very many kittens. And number two is you're going to maybe have a Christmas tree. So the best time to bring a kitten into the house is not when you have a lot of glass decorations and hooks and staples and ribbon hanging off of an object in the middle of the house. So I encourage you to come early and come often if you are looking for a kitten this year. This little guy is obviously a great little kitten. He's from one of our foster care providers, which means he's already been in a house, litter trained, and running around in a family house situation. So it's good for them to know all of that before they come to the shelter, and we make them available for you. Spooky is our last feline guest of the segment. And Spooky is a gray tabby with very little tabby markings. They're just on his legs and his little white feet. He is only 3 years old. He's a neutered male. He was owned. His birthday is June 6th. Sometimes when cats come to the shelter, they come as strays. Half of our cats are stray. And we have no idea when they were born. And people usually ask, you know, do we know their birthday? Can we estimate their birthday? And of course, with kittens like Darrell, that's pretty easy because he's only been alive about 8 weeks. We could make a very good guess about the week that he was born. But Spooky, we know exactly, June 6th. So what would be, you know, there's so many reasons that you might pick a cat. I just adopted a cat about a week ago. And the reason was so many things. Her name was cute. Her personality, she was very shy, but she would come to her name. She was pretty. So you never know what it's going to be that draws you to a certain cat. So for choosing a cat, obviously personality should be the most important, but there has to be something about the cat that gets you interested in finding out their personality. So it might be Spooky's birthday, it might be his name, it might be his color. It might be something that he does in the cage while you're passing by. So we give all of our cats hammocks to lie in if they don't have a shelf or a box. We give them toys in their cage, several kinds of food, because we want to try to make them interactive in the cage to draw someone's attention so they can see if that's the cat for them. One thing you should know about all cats is they rarely care if you change their name. But if you are lucky to get a cat that knows his or her name, like the cat that I adopted, Jug, does answer to her name, so I'm not going to change it. But if I wanted to change it, let's say you wanted to change Spooky's name and you want to call him Ralph. If you call him Spooky Ralph for a week, then you can drop the Spooky because he will have learned that Ralph always follows Spooky and Spooky means Ralph. If you do it the other way, it doesn't work. If you say their new name first and then their name that they understand, they ignore the first part because it doesn't have meaning. So, and that's the same with dogs. It is very easy to change their name if you so choose. And you know the old joke, cats don't care what you call them as long as it's not late for supper. So he, especially this guy, is a little chubby, just like one of our other guests. So it's important to keep them trim if you can. But obviously cats do not have the same kinds of heart disease due to cholesterol that we have. They do not have joint disease the same way that dogs and people do from overweight. So the amount of problems they have from being overweight is much less than us, but it's still, it can be predisposing them to diabetes. And obviously you want to make sure that they're at their optimal peak health, because if they do get sick, even if it's rare, they fight it off better if they're at peak health, which includes being at the ideal weight. So we're going to be back after a short break. Oh, you see something. We're going to be back after a short break with more adoptable animals at Frederick County Animal Shelter, and I hope you join us.
So, I got this new family. And I don't know what it is about this one, but she can't seem to put down that toy. Oh, and she even talks to it. Who's she talking to? Her mom? She talks to her mom a lot.
We are back with Carlton, and clearly Carlton is not a cat, and he's not a dog. He is a ferret, and ferrets are a medium-sized weasel. They have canine teeth. They are not rodents, and they eat meat. And people like to have them as pets because they're very intelligent. They wash their face like a cat. Interestingly, they are susceptible to cat and dog colds. So when they're babies, they get puppy and kitten shots. They are distantly related to raccoons. They are not very good at climbing over things, but they are super good at going through things, tiny little cracks that you would not think they could fit through. They are fully able to maneuver through. And they are, he's yawning. I wish you could have seen that. It was very cute. His name is Carlton, and we work with a very experienced ferret rescue called Friskies. And the reason that we do that is because they are not the easiest pet to care for. For one, they're actually a wild animal, so they smell like a wild animal. Yes, pet ferrets are descented, so it's not like they're a skunk or anything like that, but they're distantly related to skunks as well. But some people don't like the smell of a wild animal in their house, so that is something to consider. They like to swim, interestingly enough. They're distantly related to otters. So it's a very interesting pet, and ferrets are not for everyone. I can tell you that I cared for a ferret once for about 6 to 10 weeks, and she was left behind at an animal hospital where I worked, and she was delightful and friendly and curious. But if you are thinking that it's going to be a biddable pet like a dog, or even a lap cat like a cat, a lap pet like a cat, no. Ferrets are snuggly. They like to go under towels and through tunnels and hide under things and that type of behavior, but they are curious and active and smart and determined and persistent. And if you ask them to do something and they want to do it, they are happy to comply. If they don't want to do it, there is nothing you can do. No intimidation, no withholding of treats, no nothing you can do to make them stop wanting what they want. And in some cases, that's why people love them, is because they are little sprites. But they are definitely not passive and easy to handle. So Carlton in particular may be going to Friskies Rescue. But if you are interested in a ferret, then we have an employee here at the shelter, Carol Fisher, who is experienced in everything ferret. And we have some ferret information. We can give you ferret webpage information. But basically the benefit to talking to Carol or making it known that you want a ferret here so we can give you information is that we can prepare you so you can find out if ferrets are for you. We are back with Lilly, and Lilly is a coonhound mix, and she is 8 to 10 years old. And it really does take a big-hearted person to adopt a dog that's 8 to 10 years old. And the reason that Lilly is on the show today is so that we can explain to you, obviously, the virtues of an older dog. She's already house-trained, she's already crate-trained, she already likes other dogs, she already likes children, she's perfect. And oftentimes people say, but if she's 10, she's only going to be around another 5 to, if you're lucky, 10 years, but that's not too common for dogs to live to be 20. So they don't want to make the commitment. But if you think about it, 5 to 10 years is a long time to commit to a living being who is going to need food and toys and all kinds of things. So one of the reasons that I wanted to show Lilly on the show today is because she's already adopted. Lilly has been chosen by a family that has an adorable little dachshund who loves her. They are very respectful of each other. They had great manners with each other. So later today, Lilly is going to go to her new home. And sometimes I think it's a good idea for us to show the range of dogs that we have at the shelter, because many of them never make it onto the TV show.
Lilly.
They're chosen before we do the show once a week. They're brought in at the beginning of the week and they're already adopted by the end. So you would never know. By no means are the animals on the show indicative of all that we ever have. So we were going to show a little dog, Tinkerbell, a tiny little poodle, already adopted, so she can't be on the show. So Lilly is taking her place. And what a great dog. A lot of times people don't realize what their needs in a dog are. And if what you need is a dog who can be your family pet right away, then Lilly is that. And I am happy to say she's already spoken for, but we get dogs like Lilly every week. And if that's what you're looking for, let us know and we will help you find one. We are back with Cher. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about body language with Cher's help, because the body language that Cher, well, now she's doing grooming, but the body language that Cher is presenting, staying low to the ground and shivering and walking, it is because she's apprehensive, but it's also called deferent behavior in dogs. And people do it too, but we kind of look at it in people as being wimpy or skittish. But with dogs, it's actually a way for them to avoid conflict with adults when they're puppies. And if it's reinforced when they're babies, which it very often is in small dogs, then they keep it as they get to be adults. And what it's for, avoiding conflict, as I said, but why it gets reinforced is because when people see this pancaking and slinking, they usually pick the dogs up and they feel concern for them. And so it makes us pamper and baby them, which dogs love. So then they offer the behavior more and more. So Cher, in case you don't know, is a little Shih Tzu, 2 to 3 years old. And I wanted to look on our chart and see why she was given up, but she wasn't. She was a stray. She came to us as a lost dog, and we hold her for 5 days. We put her picture on the website, and we check our lost reports. And there's a great Facebook page called Lost and Found Pets in and around Frederick County, and we couldn't find her owner. So that isn't that common. About 70% of our lost dogs are reclaimed, and another chunk of them we do find the owner, and the owner says they don't want to reclaim. But every once in a while we get a lovely dog like Cher, who clearly was someone's pet, and no one ever comes to get her. So she is, as you can see, beautiful and willing to eat treats in here, which means she can't be that scared. So she is going to make someone a wonderful pet. She does have, we have a wish list for people who want Shih Tzus, so we have called them. So they will be coming in to meet her, and if one of them chooses to adopt her, then she will not be available for adoption beyond that. So if you would like to get on our wish list, you should do so. We are back with China, who you've all met before. China has been in the shelter for a couple months now, so we really do need someone to adopt her. Hopefully she'll show you her face in a minute. She is a beautiful dog. She's very muscular, she's very sweet, but she has the bully breed stigma. She's an American Staffordshire Bull Terrier, which many people know is very similar to an American Pit Bull Terrier. What you may not know is that Pit Bull dogs refers to about 30 different breeds of dogs. And there is no genetic trait that belongs to dogs that does not appear in dogs across the board. So people often say that they don't want to get a Pit Bull because of what they've heard. And it is important for us to protect them from the stigma. They are robust big terriers. That's what they are. There's nothing about that that should be a surprise to anyone. And if you allow, her leg is caught, if you allow robust big terriers to run loose without training, they'll get into trouble. As you can see, she's checking out all the toys that we have, and she is a very good girl and has a lot to offer. And she's just young, and she's going to need training. She's also no kind of fancy color. So she's a beautiful fawn-colored dog, but sometimes people want, they must have a blue dog, they must have a spotted dog, they must have a, a brindle dog. But those things will not help you find the dog. Oh, she's choking herself from playing. And this is one of those things that
She snorts.
You have to know, yes, she makes pig noises anyway, but she's pulling on the leash so tightly to get the toy that she's making it pull tight on her neck. So a lot of times people also say that they don't recommend playing tug of war with these dogs, and nothing could be further from the truth. She loves it. So if you would like to teach her to pay attention to you and have good manners, using tug of war as a reward, as long as she's behaving appropriately, and you can see she started to put her paw on the toy to take it from Randy, but she has already learned, if I use my paws and I'm too rough, the game is over. And because she loves to play it, she's willing to modify her play style so she can keep a person engaged in the game she loves so much. So China's going to make somebody a great dog, and I hope we've demonstrated a little of her pliability and cuteness by having her on the show again with more interaction. Because when we had her on the show before, I think she's beautiful. She's so fit, and she's so interested in people that she's going to make someone a great pet. But today, by showing a little bit more of the training that she undergoes and what we do here at the shelter, we can hopefully show you the promise that she has, because she wants to do the right thing, and her inclination is to make things easy for people. You want to play with this one? Yeah. We are back with Lexi, and Lexi is an American Staffordshire Terrier, and she is only 10 months old, and as you can see, all dogs are different. Lexi has a more sedate manner in her cage, but still, big terriers are playful and they want to do stuff. So even though she's not as outgoing as China, she's still just as strong and just as determined and interested in people. Actually, she's much more interested in food than China was. So that bodes well for training, because if a dog will work for food, then you, yes, Randy just said, China also stepped on the table. I don't know if it was on camera, but if you're a dog and you're this size and you come upon a table that is this low, you have to be taught this is not for stepping on. My own dog was a little Spitz mix, and we lived in a condo that had a sectional sofa and a high ceiling, and we moved into a house and bought a coffee table. We'd never had one before. And we moved into the new house, and this is a 5-year-old, polite, well-trained adult dog. She jumped up on the coffee table and lay down. So they don't know whatever you don't tell them. So in order for them to understand the idea of furniture, you would have to explain that there's certain items in the house that you don't walk on. And a lot of times when people get a puppy, they don't realize that. They think that the puppy is bad. They think that the dog is too hyper because they walk on furniture. When the truth of the matter is that tiny puppies learn that stuff by osmosis. First of all, they're brought into a home where they can't reach it, so they don't walk on it, and that is reinforced. So you do have to know that if you adopt a 10-month-old puppy, she has a baby number of experiences, but she has an almost adult body. So she's going to need to learn all of the things. As you saw, Randy asked her to sit, and she can do that. She's going to have to learn all of the things that you would teach a baby puppy, only in giant size. So Lexi is a pretty little girl, as I said, only 10 months old. And as you know, with our puppies, we take 4 applications and find the best match. The ideal home for Lexi would be someone that has puppy experience and terrier experience. But if you don't have that and you are determined to be a good puppy caretaker for her, talk to us, because we want to know what you have in mind, and if she's a good match, then we want to help her do a good job in your home and help you do a good job as a puppy keeper. So if you have seen any animal that you would like to know more about, please call us. Please check out Pet Finder, and we want to help you. Share the link at the bottom of the screen if you want to share this week's episode of Pet Pals, and I hope that we see you next time.